And welcome everyone to our weekly discussion here, the last Monday in February. March coming up this weekend. March Madness just a couple of weeks away. Selection Sunday. Actually 2 weeks from Sunday, believe it or not. March 17th. Can't get over that, how quickly things have flown by. All right, we got the AP poll, the Power 36. I want to take your questions as well here on this Monday afternoon. A couple things to keep in mind. We will have a new NCAA tournament bracket at NCAA.com and March Madness tomorrow. We had one on Saturday. Thursday. We will have one again tomorrow. And it'll be the following Tuesday, then the following Tuesday, and then on Selection Sunday. A new number one, AP poll Power 36. Gonzaga is the top of the poll. By the way, March Madness 365, our podcast will be up late tonight. Conversation with Cincinnati head coach Mick Cronin. The Bearcats are at number 17 in my Power 36. They cracked the AP poll at number 23, getting no love nationally, and Cincinnati deserves it because they've had a great year outside of losing to East Carolina and Houston in the AAC. Nothing wrong with that. They lost at the beginning of the season, obviously, at home to Ohio State. But this Bearcat team flying under the radar, not the norm for Mick Cronin, but they're a pretty good squad. And then also, a conversation I had with Taco Fall after their huge win. He had 23-20 on Sunday over SMU. So I've got UCF at the back part of my Power 36. They're nowhere to be found in the AP poll. UCF taking on Houston on Saturday. Big game on ESPN down in Houston. And then also I'll be joined by Andy Kennedy, former Ole Miss coach, SEC basketball analyst. We'll talk about the shakeup at the top of the SEC. So that's the March Madness 365 podcast. You can get that wherever you get your podcasts. All right, a couple things first of all, before we digest these polls here. I think I did make one mistake in hindsight, and I'm already hearing from you Terp fans. In hindsight, I should have flipped Maryland and Iowa. I admit it. I admit it now. I know Maryland beat Iowa at the buzzer, but that wasn't the only reason I was initially putting Iowa in front of Maryland. And it's not just because I saw them Friday night knock off Indiana in overtime and Jordan Bohannon. I can't really explain why I was shifting Iowa over Maryland, but I did, and I should probably have switched it. So there you go. Maryland fans, you can back off a little. I probably should have switched it. So that's number one. Number two, it's funny. I did the game the other night, the Iowa-Indiana game. And it is amazing how you get all these fans like thinking that you're so one side or the other. And I know all analysts, all announcers get this. But what I was trying to accomplish, and I did this in discussing our brackets and these kinds of things, is that teams like Indiana, even though they were 500 in that kind of realm, I'm telling you what the selection committee this season is looking at. And every game is judged independently. And a team like Indiana could have played its way in had they beaten Purdue, had they beaten Iowa, if they were to beat Wisconsin tomorrow night and then Michigan State on the weekend. That's a lot of ifs. I know that. But you can't pronounce a team DOA when they have those kind of games in front of them. I did the same thing a couple weeks ago with Nebraska. They didn't win the games that I said they needed to. Notably the Penn State game on the road. So that's one reason. Florida's a good example in the SEC. Won at Alabama. Won at LSU. They have flipped the script on their narrative. 3 weeks ago, you'd be like, how could Florida be in the NCAA tournament? Look at their record. They're so mediocre. But then they win games in front of them against teams that are going to be in the field. And so I get asked a lot, what if they finish 9-11 in the next conference? How many games do they have to win in the conference tournament? The conference standings do not mean anything in terms of whether or not you're going to get in the NCAA tournament. You can be sub 500. It's all who you beat, and in terms of the conference tournament, it's also who you beat, not what round you get to. So in the SEC or the Big Ten, those early rounds, yes, they're important to get to the other games, but those wins alone are not going to get you in. So you can't say, oh, you need to just get one win in the conference tournament. If that one win is against a team that's not going to be in the NCAA tournament, that's not going to help you. That's not going to show up as a quad one win. So that's what you have to think of going forward, and that's how the selection committee thinks. You've got to get quality wins down the stretch, regardless of if it's in the conference tournament or at the end of the regular season. And a lot of conferences just don't have those opportunities at this point in the season. So other major things before we get to the questions here. I'm just scanning both sides of my screen here. Interesting, the Kansas is still atop the K-State in the AP poll. I have that flipped. Big matchup Monday night. Buffalo, I moved back up into my top 25 at 21, same as AP. Wofford cracking the AP poll at 24, and I have Wofford moving up from 36 to 30. So I've moved them up steadily. Washington, glad to see they're in the AP poll. I have them at 24, they're at 25. Both high in Texas Tech, a little higher in AP. I'm a little surprised on the LSU, okay? So LSU is 13 in the AP after beating Tennessee. I have LSU at 8. So the other big elephant in the room that I know I'm going to get slammed on here momentarily is Duke. All right? So Duke was my number one. Duke will be a 1 seed in our bracket tomorrow. There is no question they're a 1 seed. But we say this time and time and time again that the poll, the rankings are not the same as the seeding. So Duke, whether Zion Williamson played or not, they lost to North Carolina, and they lost badly. North Carolina won that game start to finish, okay? Then they win at Syracuse, I know that. So, based on this snapshot in time, North Carolina is playing better than Duke. So I have North Carolina ahead of Duke. Kentucky, which beat Tennessee last week, ahead of both of them. Gonzaga, Virginia, I have no problem. We're equal here. So we're quibbling over Duke at 3 versus my Duke at 5. Is Duke a higher seed than Kentucky and North Carolina? Yes. Were they playing better than those two schools last week? No. Kentucky destroyed Auburn. So that's what you have to remember here. What you see in this Power 36, what you see in the AP poll is not going to be the same that you'll see, whether it's my bracket, whether it's Howie Schwab, whether it's Joe Lunardi, Jerry Palm, even looking at like Ken Pomeroy rankings, the net. These rankings, and everyone does their own in terms of polls and power rankings, are not the same as seeding. I'm just going to keep pounding that. Okay? All right. Let's take some questions here. Any shot Ohio State can salvage their season, says Kevin. Yes. They've got games. Once again, opportunities are in front of the Buckeyes. They can still make the tournament. I think they ultimately will. But they got to beat someone else other than Northwestern down the stretch here. Pat Donovan, how are St. Mary's and Gonzaga, or how are St. Mary's and San Francisco still on the bubble? Right now, I don't have them on the bubble. So they're on someone else's bubble. I think they need to beat the Zags in the conference tournament. Dan wants to know VCU. How good do I think they are? I think they're comfortably in the field right now. I think they are going to get in regardless. So if I'm the A10, I'm rooting against VCU. That might hurt their seed, but I want multiple bids. Gene says, doesn't matter what everybody says, Virginia's going to win the championship. I've got them as a possible Final Four teams, no question. Keith, is UCF on the bubble? Today they're in. They've got a hard Final Four games. Playing Cincinnati. Wait, let me remember this here. They have Houston this weekend. I thought they have Cincinnati. Anyway, I think they're going to be in. I would love to see Taco Fall in the NCAA tournament. Aubrey Dawkins, BJ Taylor. I think it'd be great. Nick Preston, who do I got? Kansas, K-State tonight. I think Kansas ends up winning this game, which could potentially help them still get a share of the Big 12 title. Jeremy says, why isn't Kentucky over Duke in the AP? That's a good question. And by the way, the AP poll on February 25th has nothing to do with what happened on November 6th. That Duke win over Kentucky matters in the seeding for sure, but in the poll, no. Lucas says Iowa and LSU should be higher. In AP, I agree. Okay, Dage says OVC has 4 teams that could make a run. Well, you're including Belmont, Murray, Austin Peay, and Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State got 2 wins over Belmont. Here's the problem. I think Belmont's the only one that can get in on its own. Peel back those other resumes. And here's the thing on schools like that, and I see a lot of arguments like, oh, you got to give a chance to the other little guy and all that. A lot of them have chances and take advantage of them. You know, Belmont did. Buffalo did. Wofford is just beating everybody, okay? Greensboro, Furman. Now, they might not have won their non-conference games at the elite level, but they are creating such separation in their league that they are clearly the best team, okay? In the OVC, Belmont, you know, right now is the best team and has the best resume. So I just don't see another OVC team getting in without beating Belmont. Let's see some comments here. Cody, Kentucky, Tennessee this Saturday. Who I got? I got Tennessee. Christopho, Brandon Clark's defensive prowess. Phenomenal. One of the best red shirts that we've seen in a long time. Tony Makeda. Are the Zags a number 1 overall seed? Right now they are. We'll see if they can hold their spot. Who do I like between Duke and Virginia Tech? Asked Stephen Decker. I like Duke on the road. Yes, I answered the Maryland question. I should have moved them up. That's on me. Okay? Can Carolina win it all? They're one of the teams. I wouldn't pick them, but they're one of the teams. Is Syracuse on the bubble, Rob, Bob? I say no. I think they're in. Paul says that's a huge drop for Villanova. Yeah, they're out of my Power 36. I mean, look what happened on Sunday. Xavier was 9th place, 2 weeks ago? Now they're in 4th, I think. And they drilled them in the second half. Mike says Cassius Winston is a player of the year. He's definitely the Big Ten player of the year. I think he's either first or second team All-American. Chris says, will Old Dominion make the tournament? They will. They're my pick to win Conference USA. Who wins the Big Ten? Well, I've gone back and forth, and now I'm on Michigan State. I had Michigan last week. Dayton Flyers? No. Not getting in unless they win the tournament. Alabama in or out? Right now they're in the sort of the last 4, I think. I'll have to look how it plays out tonight. NC State in. I have them in. Asks Brian. Jackson, is Arizona State on the bubble? Well, technically they're on the bubble, but here's the deal with ASU. Opportunity. Beat Kansas, Mississippi State, Utah State. Beat Washington. So Arizona State beat the best team in its league. Okay? They beat other bubble teams like Utah State, which hasn't beaten anybody like that. And they knocked off Kansas and Mississippi State. So to me, they're looking pretty good. Joseph says Purdue has the best schedule but not the best team. That is true. They could get a share of it. George, who wins the Big East? Marquette. End of story. Cameron, how do I like Florida? I like them a lot more now after they knocked off Alabama on the road and beat LSU on the road. Kansas in Final Four? Ask Miguel. No. Matthew, does LSU win the SEC? I think they at least get a share now because they beat Kentucky and Tennessee. Dennis, weak league, Zags. We hear this every year. It's better than it's been. And watch them. They're good. Okay? Bobby, does NCAA pick the most deserving teams or teams that travel well and sell tickets? No. Irrelevant. It is never about selling tickets in filling the field. This product, March Madness, I'm not just shilling it because I'm wearing it, sells itself. And while the early rounds, sometimes the noon games won't have great attendance on a Thursday or Friday, the arenas mostly are sold out. And so that's not been the problem. So I'm wrong, says Connor. Kentucky will get the road win. I don't think that that's wrong. They certainly could. And they're the best team in the country. So we'll see. They're certainly one of them. I got them 3. Don't think that's wrong to have them 3. What happened in Louisville, Muhammad? Well, they exceeded expectations. And, they played good teams and they blew that Duke game. And then they just, I think, lost the Syracuse game after that in large part the same way. Wonder if Nick Ward will play in the tournament, asked Bill. Questionable. With that kind of injury, he had surgery. They're saying at the earliest NCAA tournament. Who wins the ACC tourney? I'll lean Virginia again. Jeremy, I don't know why Cincinnati's getting so little respect, so listen to the podcast. Yes, I know, John, there are 4 teams in the top 68 out of the SoCon, but I don't think just because the numbers are good that they're going to get in. So, my most surprising team, Miguel, I would say probably Ole Miss. They're picked last in the SEC. Can Marquette get up to a 2 seed, Jeff? It's possible. Pat, great to see Mike Dahm in the tournament. I agree. Talked to him on Sunday. You can check out our interview on NCAA.com, March Madness. Also talked to Cassius Winston on Sunday as well. All right, one more here. And I appreciate it. Check out our bracket tomorrow. A sleeper, Marcellus asks, to win it all. If you can call a top 10 team like Houston a sleeper, then I would say Houston. I would say Houston. That's the sleeper. They could win it all. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone downloading, watching all our content here at March Madness. We're hitting the home stretch of the regular season. We've had a great run so far, providing content across the board, hitting all sorts of schools around the country. Power 36 AP poll. I'll take the L on the Maryland-Iowa switch. I probably should have switched them. And so I'm admitting that now to you all. All right? So that was my bad. Anyway, appreciate it. March Madness 365 podcast being posted late tonight. New NCAA tournament bracket on Tuesday. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and appreciate everyone's comments, questions that we get every week and downloading all our content at March Madness. I'm Andy Katz, saying so long.